Hello, it's Alex and welcome to Hey Little Thrifter. Today I'm doing a book tag. It is the Second Tome Around book tag, which is all centred around second-hand books. This was created by Julie at Hungry Bookworm and I was tagged by Olive at A Book Olive. I will leave both of their videos linked in the description below. And I met Olive for the first time in person at a library book sale, surrounded by used books, so this is very fitting. And thank you for tagging me, Olive. Question 1 is, do you buy second-hand books? Yes, is the short answer. And I guess to elaborate a little, yeah, I've always been a fan of buying second-hand books. I love being able to find books that I really want to read out in the wild, or, you know, tracking them down online. And then also there's that treasure hunt aspect of it, that when you shop in a charity shop or a thrift store or whatever, you never really know what you're going to find. And yes, you might stumble upon something you want to read, something that's been on your wish list, or, you know, another book by an author that you've read other books by and enjoyed. But then there's also those books that you find that you might never have come across otherwise, whether it be the title or the cover art that jumps out to you for whatever reason, and then you realise that it looks like just your cup of tea. Yeah, those are the kind of books that you just aren't going to find any other way. For me, buying secondhand isn't just about, you know, finding things for a good price, and that's definitely a big part of it, but also it helps to be part of the, you know, kind of reduce, reuse, recycle way of thinking. And yeah, if somebody is getting rid of something, it's great to be able to save that from going in the landfill or something. So yeah, I think there are a few really positive reasons to buy secondhand. Question 2 is, what is or was your latest purchase? And I haven't been book shopping in a while. Obviously the past couple of months most places have been closed down, and also, yeah, I just haven't been able to afford to buy anything. But recently things have changed in those respects, and I went to a couple of thrift stores and found a few books which I was really pleased with. And one of those is The Midnight Club by Christopher Pike. So I was really pleased to find this one, and it's one of his I haven't read before, so I am looking forward to it. Question 3 is, what condition do you find acceptable? I am not too picky, I'll be honest. For me, as long as it's readable, then I don't really mind exactly what the condition is. I obviously love to find books that are in better condition than worse, but, you know, generally beggars can't be choosers, so I'm quite happy with whatever. Especially if it is an older title that is out of print and you know that that is the only edition out there. If I see it, I'm totally gonna grab it. You know, you never know, in the future you might find one in a better condition, and that's great, but at least then you have it and you can read it. I think if it's something that I know is much more common, or, you know, I know that there are more copies and more editions out there, then I might be a bit more picky about that, because chances are I might stumble upon a copy in better condition, you know, sooner rather than later. But most of the books that I do purchase are older titles, so generally if I see it, I grab it. So yeah, that does mean that quite a number of my books are pretty rough around the edges. You know, the covers are creased and possibly, you know, have corners missing, and the spines are super cracked. Personally, I think it adds character, and I quite like a book that has been broken in. Otherwise I'm very precious about new books otherwise, and I'm kind of like afraid to trash them, so if it's already been done, I don't feel too bad about it. Question 4 is, after you have read said book, do you keep it for a reread or redonate it? I think it depends on the book. If it's something I did not enjoy and I know I'm never going to reread, then it will go in a donate pile, and yeah, once there are a few items they will get donated somewhere. But if it is a book that I enjoyed, even if it's not one I could see myself rereading anytime soon, I do generally keep it because I just like having a lot of books around me. I like having a collection, and at the moment space isn't as much of an issue as it has been for me in the past. So yeah, definitely not going to let things get too out of hand, but I am able to keep and house a good number of books where I'm at the moment, so that's pretty great. So I don't have that as an issue for needing to kind of cycle out books as regularly as I used to. Question 5 is, do you have a favourite place to go when looking for second-hand books? So I used to live in the UK and would love going around charity shops. Usually, you know, there would be an area or a particular street that would have a few close together, so yeah, it was always really fun to make that a specific, you know, outing and yeah, see what books I could find. And now that I live in the US, thrift stores are my go-to place for books, and yeah, there are quite a number near where I live, which is great. Some of them are the bigger ones like Goodwill, and then there are a few like independent ones. So yeah, the prices are always really cheap and it's very hit or miss, but yeah, when you find a gem, it makes it worthwhile. So I would say thrift stores are my go-to. I also really enjoy going to library book sales, and again, my area, there are quite a number of them. They usually do them in the spring and in the autumn, and unfortunately this spring they were all, or most of them at least, were cancelled. So yeah, no library book sales this season, which is a bit of a shame because I really enjoy going to them. But hopefully things will be happening in autumn. I guess time will tell, and yeah, we'll see what happens there. But I've definitely had some great luck at library book sales in the past. Also, if there are any particular books or a particular edition of a book that I'm on the lookout for and I want it sooner rather than later, then I might track that down online. So I usually go on places like eBay and Abe Books. I've had, yeah, good luck with those kind of sites finding a particular book that I'm after for a good price. But yeah, my preference is definitely going out in the wild to hunt for books. Question 6 is, hardback or paperback, do you have a preference? Yeah, I definitely prefer paperbacks. That's my book type of choice. Within that, I like mass market paperbacks. I just like the size and shape of them. I don't know, it just works for me. And I think larger size paperbacks are fine, but they're not as easy to kind of handle, I guess. I do still buy hardback books if I see them, if it's a book that I want, and I do still read them, but yeah, my preference is definitely paperback. Question 7 is, have you found any real gems? And yeah, I think I found a lot of gems. I would say a gem is something that I'm excited to find, something I'm excited to read, and yeah, I've definitely found lots of those. I definitely like to focus on vintage horror fiction, so whenever I find those kind of books out in the wild, I definitely consider those gems as well. And occasionally I will see a particular book that I know is collectible in some way, or you know, tends to go for a bit of money, and while that's not my goal in buying secondhand, yeah, it's just sometimes you do come across those books. And one of those which kind of fits into all of those gem categories, funnily enough, is this copy of The Girl Next Door by Jack Ketchum. I found this like a year or two ago in an independent thrift store not too far from where I live, and it was marked up as 99 cents. And I remember grabbing it off the shelf and being really excited to find this book because at the time it was one I'd wanted to read. And yeah, finding this particular edition is like my favourite edition of the book because of this amazing artwork. So I was really happy to find this one, and even better was the fact that it was 50% off. So I got it for only 49 cents, which is pretty bonkers. And yeah, I have since read and absolutely loved this book, so that's another, yeah, gem-worthy factor. And also I had heard that, you know, this particular edition was somewhat collectible, but I'd never really looked into it, and in preparing for this video I had a quick look online to see what it's selling for, and I think the cheapest online right now is about $100. So that's pretty wild, the fact that I got this for 49 cents. Question 8 is optional. Find a book from your shelves that you can donate to a good cause or your local charity or Goodwill shops. And I did have a little stack of books already that are just, I guess, waiting for some more things to be added to it before they get donated. But one of those books is Hex by Thomas Oldehuvelt, and this was one I read earlier this year, last year, I can't remember, and it was okay. It had its moments, but I wasn't in love with it, and it's not one I'm going to reread. So yeah, this is one I can clear up a little bit of shelf space with getting rid of. And lastly, number 9 is to tag some peeps, and I'm tagging 3 lovely ladies who I think like a second-hand book or two. Mers from Harpies in the Trees, Regina from Regina's Haunted Library, and Lydia from Typical Books. So yeah, if you would like to do this tag, I would love to hear your answers, and anyone else who would like to do this tag, please consider yourself tagged, and yeah, I would love to see your videos too. Thank you ever so much for watching, I hope you enjoyed it, and hopefully I will see you again in my next video. Bye!